All right. So we left off today. We left off in the bottom of Kuf Nun Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom. And today's the Kuf Nun Aleph. So as we come to the end of the Masechta, so we have a quote from the Mishnah that says Klal Amar Abashol. So we were talking about going to the end of the Tchum. Now remember, Tchum is basically you get 2,000 amos beyond your town, where one can go ahead and walk on Shabbos. So you can go up to the end of the Tchum in order for it to be there at the end of Shabbos only for certain matters. You can't go out to the end of the Tchum to do something that you're forbidden to do on Shabbos. But says the Mishnah, Klal Amar, I'm just reading for the Mishnah, Klal Amar Abashol, Kol She'eni Zaka B'mirasa, Kol She'ani Zaka B'mirasa, Rashani La'achshi Chalav. Anything that I'm permitted to go ahead and say, right? In other words, remember, you can't go ahead and hire people, right? So therefore, but anything that you're permitted to go ahead and do, then you can go to all the way to the end of the border. So now we have to understand what the statement means. Let's see the Gemara. So Abashol Aya. So the question is, what statement of our Mishnah was Abashol going on? And actually, the Gemara was going to explain. We don't need to reference back to the Mishnah. So Ilema Reisha, if he's talking, referring to the Reisha, which said what? Ein machashkin al tchum ischar palam lahavi peiros. You can't go ahead to the end of the border in order to go ahead and hire workers in order to bring fruits after Shabbos. So hi, kol shani zakah b'mirasa rashai. Ani b'chashichaso kol she'eno zakah b'mirasa eni rashai b'chashichaso. It shouldn't be anything that you're allowed to say. You can go to the border. Rather, the rule should have been anything you're not allowed to say, right? Because we just said this talking about the statement where he said you're not allowed to go ahead and hire workers. So if it's going in that case, they should have said anything you're not allowed to say, you're not allowed to go for, right? But rather it was said in the positive. So Ella Seifakoi. Rather it must be going on the Seifa, the next part of the mission, which says, Aval Machshich Hu Lishmor Vei Peres Biyad. A person's allowed to go ahead to the border, right, to the edge, in order to go ahead and to watch his fruits and to bring them after Shabbos. So the Gemara says, "Hi, kol she'eni zakah b'chashichasa rashani b'mirasa miboyle." If he's talking about that, it shouldn't say anything which I can say I can go to the border. It should have been anything I can go to the border for. I can go ahead to say to somebody else. So because they flipped it around, it should be reversed. So Gemara says, really, it is going on the seifa. The Abashal Ahaika is actually going on a similar case, but a little different. The Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Mutter li Adam loymar lechavero. He can say to his friend, let's say they started in different areas on Shabbos and their tchum sort of overlapped, but you can't go ahead to reach the other guy's tchum, but their tchum overlaps, so they can see each other on Shabbos, but they can't go to the other's edge, further, away from each other. So you're allowed to go to tell your friend, you watch my fruits that's in the edge of your tchum, and I'll watch your fruits in the edge of my tchum.
Can I just stop you for 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
Before you mentioned we're only going to talk about the positive and not the negative, but that's fine. Just let me remind you, if you will, obviously for life, tchum, if you go past tchum, if someone's life is at risk, no, that's not a problem. Also, we learned, I believe it was a kala for certain situations, and maybe even a mace for certain situations.
Right.
Until Shabbos is over. And you can go to the end of the tchum, you can't pass it. What else? So now you're just saying, so is that the only thing as far as we learn in the Mishnah, that you're able to go to Tchum?
So another way like this, to go to the end, and you're not allowed to go to the end to do something you can't do on Shabbos, unless you're allowed to go to the end. Actually, we're going to soon see the next Mishnah. You're allowed to go to the end of the Tchum for a mace or for a kala. Doesn't mean you can be Machal Shabbos. In other words, once again, we're not talking about saving a person's life. Right? We were talking about preparing for a funeral, preparing the body, covered a mace. So even though you can't be Machal Shabbos for the mace, but we allow you to violate the Dirabanan, we allow you to go, or not even Dirabanan, we allow you to go to the edge of the Tchum, right? In order to be prepared to benefit the mace or a kala right after Shabbos. But over here, we're talking about even certain things that if you can't do it on Shabbos, then you can't even go to the edge. Right, so that's what we're talking about. But when it comes to saving life, that for sure, there's no question you can do whatever needs to be done. Over here, we're talking about doing preparations for after Shabbos, on Shabbos, and the preparation is walking to the end of the tchum and waiting there.
Yo, quick question.
Yeah.
We're saying you should watch my fruit by the beginning of your tchum, and I should watch your fruit at the beginning of my tchum. Are you taking responsibility for that? So there's like thievery if someone steals or something it happens?
My assume is, I mean, if they're shomer chinam, if they're a free watchman, I mean, they're not getting paid. You're not allowed to hire people. But over here, there's it's like a barter system, right? You watch mine and I watch yours in terms of whether the chayiv, right? Is it considered to be a shomer chinam, or maybe it's a shomer sachar because you're paying, I'm paying you by watching your fruits. That's your payment.
What I'm watching is I'm paying you to watch mine. And
all right, so that could be a payment itself. So yeah, so when it comes to
quid pro quo,
right? So if there's damages, then you have to see. All right, good question. But anyways, let's go back to the case. So he says the Kamer Abishal says, "I'm now the Tanakama. Samilo Modis the Mutar Adon Lechavero Shamali Peros Should Chumei Chvani Yeshmel Lechavero Should Chumi." Right, and Abishal says that. Right, you're allowed to say to somebody, I'll watch your fruit and you watch my fruit. And therefore, you can say like this: anything that I'm allowed to go ahead and say, I'm allowed to go ahead and be there when it's dark. Now, since I'm allowed to go ahead and tell you, right, go ahead and guard the fruit. Therefore, one is allowed to go ahead to the edge of the border to be able to guard the fruit for after Shabbos. And klal asuyei mai. So this rule that we say it's a klal, what does that come to include? Normally, we have klal comes to include a case. So asuyei had the tan rabbanan. That would she learned. One is not allowed to go ahead to the border in order to bring an animal. However, if the animal went and strayed beyond the tchum where he can't go back, so he's allowed to go ahead and stand to the edge and basically call out to the animal, "Here, Bessie," right? And the animal comes back. And klal amar Abishol, and on that Abishol says, anything you're allowed to go ahead and say, then you're allowed to go ahead and and go to the edge. In order, for when Shabbos ends. One is allowed to go ahead and go to the edge of the border in order to be there when Shabbos is over, in order to go ahead and provide for the needs of a kala or of a mace, to lahavilo aron v'tachrich, in order to go ahead and bring the coffin, right, and shrouds for the mace. You can even tell somebody else, go to a certain place, right, in order to get these, for the tzarech of the kala or the mace. And he can say to him, if you don't find here, you can go to another place. You're allowed to give him these instructions for after Shabbos. If you can't find, for 100, then, pay 200 for it. And he says in the case, don't really mention, you shouldn't mention the dollar amount, but you're allowed to certainly go ahead and give him instructions as to go ahead and where to go. Fine.
But it's a mitzvah. Yoel, you said before on Shabbos, you could talk about a mitzvah, any kind of gathering of money.
Very good. Excellent question. So, so Andrew's asking good questions. Why is it any different? We said earlier, why is one allowed to go ahead and those tzarchei mitzvah, right? Only your items you can't do, but tzarchei mitzvah l'chayra, that should be mutter. It's a good question. It's a good question as to why Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda holds that you should not be able to go, to say it. Very good question. I don't know. I have an answer. Good. So let's see the Mishnah. Mishnah says, as we just mentioned, one's allowed to go ahead and go to the end of the border for when Shabbos ends in order to go ahead and provide or help to be there at the end of Shabbos in order to go ahead and provide the needs for a kala or for a mace in order to go ahead and bring the avron tachrichin. And nachri shehevi, now another case, a nachri shehevi chalulim b'Shabbos lo yispar behem Yisrael. A nachri who goes ahead and brings flutes, right? Flutes were commonly used at funerals to basically get people in the mood to cry. So those that were brought on Shabbos should not be used, right, for Yisrael, right? In other words, and it says, and Rashi points out, in other words, forever. No, it doesn't just mean, right after Shabbos you can't use it because it was brought from farther away, and therefore you have to wait till you were able to bring it. It means it's a kanas, it's like a punishment that you can't use it at all. Only if it came from Malkum Karov, only if it came within the Tchum. And we'll soon see the machlokes that case between Rav and Shmuel. And aslo avron v'chafru below kever. If they made an aron and they dug a ditch, yikfer by Yisrael, you can go ahead and use it for a Jew. The im b'shvil Yisrael lo yikfer by Elonis. But however, if you know that they went ahead and they dug it or they built the coffin specifically for a Jew and they did it on Shabbos, then you can never go ahead and use it, similar to the case of bringing the flutes. Fine. So that's the one. Yeah. What?
How do they bring it on Shabbos? Isn't that
Goyim brought it. Goyim brought it. Yeah, Goyim brought it. Fine.
Okay.
Now, so Goyim did it for the Jews, then you're not allowed to use it ever. right? But we'll soon see if it wasn't meant for the Jews, let's say they did it for themselves, then it would be mutter to use it after Shabbos. So the Gemara says, if they brought from Makom Karov, then it'll be mutter. So we say, my Makom Karov. What does it mean, Makom Karov? So Rav, Omer Makom Karov Mamish. Rav says, because a place that was was within the Tchum, if you know it was there. Right? No, we are concerned, there's a chashash that perhaps it could have stayed outside the walls. And as we don't know for sure, it's a suffix. And even if it's a suffix, it's possible that which they brought came from the inside. It didn't come from the outside. Then it would be mutter. So notice it doesn't have to be, we don't have to know that it was within the town and therefore wasn't brought outside. Even if it was a suffix, we don't know. And Dika Masin Kavasi Shmuel, we actually have a brayso that can be medoig like Shmuel. The Tani says they're also Aaron of the Chafer like Kever for Israel. If they made an Aaron or they dug a pit, they made a coffin. They dug a pit, then you can go ahead and dig a put it Yisrael. Alma is fake shari. We see over there that since you're allowed to go ahead and it's a suffix, you're allowed to go ahead and use it. So I mean mistake shari. So to over here, if the flute was brought from the outside, but we don't know whether it came from outside the city or within the city, therefore it'll be mutter. And the Tanya Kabasi Rav, we actually also have a Bryce in support of Rav, who said that Rav says, we have to know it was good. So if you have a city that was both inhabited by both Jews and non-Jews, and you have a bathhouse that was used on Shabbos. If it was heated on Shabbos, but most people live in the town and use the bathhouse for Goyim. So once Shabbos ends, you're allowed to go ahead and use it immediately. You don't have to wait for the time that it would take to heat up, because even though it was heated up, it wasn't heated up for the purpose of Jews. It was heated up for a Goyim. However, even if Rav Yisrael, if most people that use the bathhouse are Jews, and therefore it was heated on Shabbos, so therefore it was heated for most of the members. Most of the members of this bathhouse are Jews. So yamtim an kadesh yechamu chamu. You have to go ahead and wait until the amount of time it would take to heat up the bath. Normally, if let's say they started right after Shabbos, and mechzel, if this town was 50-50, then ad kadesh yechamu chamu. Until or you should a suffix, you should wait in order the time it takes to go ahead and to heat it up. And Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Ba'ambati Katana, if it's a small bath, Im Yesh Ba Rashus Reichitz V'Miyad. If there was a person who's very chashuv, right, and we'll soon see what that is, then you can go ahead and use it. If you find that it heated up after Shabbos, you can use it immediately. So my Rashus, what's this Rashus? So I'm Rabbi Yehuda, I'm Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yehuda, Im Yesh Ba Adam Chashuv. Sheyesh L'Asara Avadim, Shemacham Lo Asara Kum Kummin Vasachas. If you have a very important person who basically has, like, let's say 10 servants who go ahead and heat up, right, 10 buckets, right, or 10 containers, and then just pour it in the tub, and all of a sudden you have a hot, hot bath, right? So then you can go to wash immediately, because you see that it was heated. It could have been heated even after Shabbos, because you had this person who's very chashuv. So, but the point over here is that according to Rav, you have to know, if we know that it was done for the non-Jews, then you can use it. Otherwise, the suffix, then you can't go ahead and use it, right? And you have to wait a certain amount, as if it was done for Goyim. So to over here, if the flute, only if we know that the flute was in the town, then you can go ahead and use it after Shabbos. But if you don't know, then it's a suffix, and then we treat it as if it was done for the Goyim. Actually, it was as if it was done for the Jews, and therefore they don't be prohibited. And also, they say over here, if they made an aro, or they dug a pit or a grave, you can go ahead and use it. So amai. Why are you allowed to go ahead and use it immediately? Why don't you say over here that you should have to wait for the time it goes ahead it requires to go ahead and dig? So the Gemara says, right? We're talking about over here when it was basically on the side of the road, right? It was on the side of the road, and therefore only Goyim were buried in the side of the road. So therefore, since it's the side of the road, we know it was done for Goyim. It wasn't done for Jews. So therefore, since we know the malacha was not done for the purpose of a Jew using it, therefore you can go ahead and use it immediately after Shabbos. So tinach kever, I understand a kever, because then it's mashed there. So aron ma'ikam. How do you know if the coffin was built for a Goy or for a Jew? So Rabbi Yehuda, we might tell kivra. Let's say it was next to the grave on the side of the road. So therefore, you know that was built for the purpose of a guy, and therefore a Jew would be able to be. We can go ahead and use it for a Jew right after Shabbos. You don't have to wait any period of time. Fine. Naya Mishnah. Oisin kol tzarche hameis. One is allowed to do any needs of the mace of a dead body at the Shabbos. Sachin umadichin oiso. You go ahead and you could put, anoint or oil, to help preserve the body. Right, madichin oiso, and you can go ahead and you could wash him. However, you shouldn't go ahead and move the body, because the body is muksa. You should not go ahead and move the body on Shabbos. Once moving, if you can go ahead and put a pillow underneath, you can do that on Shabbos, or if you can sort of put the mace on top of sand, then you should do that. Also, you can do it on Shabbos b'shil sheyamti, in order that the body, I guess, will not decay, right? In order shalei yisriach, as Rashi says, right, from the heat, right, in order to keep it cool. You can also go ahead and tie the jaw, right, so it doesn't continue to open. Lo shiyala, not to close it up. Ela shalei yosef, so it doesn't continue to open. Similarly, like a beam. Normally, a beam for a house is muksa on Shabbos. Shanishba, if it breaks, you can go ahead and put, like, let's say, a couch underneath it to hold up the roof, all right, or a bed on its side. Then rather not to go ahead and completely fix the, to fix the beam. Rather, it doesn't continue to break more and make it even worse. So therefore, so too with a mace, without touching it, if you can go ahead and basically stop the jaw from opening, then it'll be okay. So Zok the Gemara. The Gemara says. So what do we start off with? What did the Mishnah say? The Mishnah said, we can do all the tzarchei mace. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel, Ma'aseh b'talmid of Rabbi Meir. One time there was a Talmud of Rabbi Meir, shenichnas acharav lebeis hamerchatz. He went after in the base hamerchatz. Bikesh lahadiach karki. He wanted to go ahead and basically sweep the floor. Amalei imadichin. You're allowed to go ahead and sweep the floor, right? And so then, what do you want to do? So the such karki, he wanted to go ahead and basically anoint the floor. So Amalei ein sachin, can't go ahead and anoint the floor. Now. So the question is like this. In the case of sweeping, why is sweeping usher? Because if one goes ahead and sweeps. So karka michlafa, right? One person could confuse if we allow him to go ahead and sweep the stone floor, a person might go ahead and sweep another stone floor. So therefore, another basically non-stone floor, and that will basically even out the crevices, right? Or fix the floor. So therefore, to use those floors, you might go ahead and smooth it on Shabbos. So therefore, we don't want you anointing or sweeping any stone floor, because one might come to go ahead and do that on a floor that's not stone, and therefore a person will be basically smoothing out holes inside a house, which we said is similar to bona. But
in these days, they didn't really have stone floors. All the floors were dirt floors, right?
No, so over here, this was on stone. This was on stone.
People's homes, it wasn't typical that they had stones.
Right. Oftentimes, right. This was, I guess, in a bathhouse. So I guess in a bathhouse.
We're talking about a bathhouse.
Right. So, however, so mace bekarka la michlif. But however, so what's the reason why? So he said, but when it comes to a dead dead body, so normally one is not allowed. You're allowed to go ahead and anoint. So the reason is maybe we shouldn't be allowed to go ahead and anoint the floor, but there's a difference when it comes to a dead body. Even though the stones are muksa, right? So then we say over here there's no chashash, right? So the stones is completely separate. So in other words, you're not going to confuse with the stones with a dead person. So with a dead person, one can go ahead and anoint a dead, I guess use oil on a dead person.
What does that mean? You're putting oil all over the floor. Why do people anoint the floor?
I guess it was like to clean the floor, right? It was to clean the floor. He didn't want to clean the floor on Shabbos, right? He didn't want to use to clean the floors because the stones are muksa. But when it comes to a dead body, there's no different. There's a difference. No one's going to confuse a dead body with stone. So therefore, even though a dead body is muksa, you're allowed to go ahead and anoint it, because a dead body, a mace, is not similar to a stone floor. But stone floor, since the stones are muksa, then you can't go ahead and anoint the floor on Shabbos.
Okay, so I just don't. I didn't know.
A floor of Shabbos, you seal it. You don't want to seal floor of Shabbos with oil. You follow me?
It's about sealing. But in general,
it's a sealer. You don't seal the floor in Shabbos.
I see.
Right. So that was right. That was also the real reason for what's it called, for sweeping. Right. That's what Rashi says. Ashuvi gumos. Right. To fill in the holes. Now,
when we're taking care of a body on Shabbos, is it for the mace or is it for the person that wants to get the body out of their presence?
No. Now we're talking that the mace is in a safe place. We're not talking about it's in a home. We're talking about preserving the body. So now we said we can do anything. Does it say Eisen kol tzarche. So kol tzarche comes to include stuff. Who that comes to include? So we say kol. So what is it? So kol lasuye mai. What does it come to include? Lasuye hadu tan rabbanan. V'vin kli meikar v'kli matechos manichal krisa kadesh tafuach. You're allowed to go ahead and bring cold kalim or metal kalim and put them on the stomach. Kadesh tafuach. In order that the stomach does not swell. Upaikin is nekava. You're allowed to go ahead and close up their holes. Kadesh tikanis ben aruch. In order that air does not go inside. V'af Shlomo Mar b'chachlasa. Even Shlomo Melech said in his wisdom, he said, Ad asher lo yerosek chevel hakesef. In other words, you should go ahead and take care of these items, referring to a well, but these items really all hinted back to a body. So it said that before the rope breaks, so that was referring to Zol Chutach Shidra, that's the spinal cord, V'tarutz Agulav Hazav, right, and says, and the golden vessels, I guess, will break. So Za'ama, that's referring to a pervert's person's private. V'tishaber Kad al Mabua, and it says over there, the pitcher is broken and the fountain Zeh HaKeres, that is referring to the stomach. V'narutz Hagalgal al Labor, and Zeh Perish. And it says over there, and it's the wheel, I guess the bottom of the pit will be smashed. That is referring to perish. That is referring to the feces that I guess are in the stomach or still in the intestines. Someone says, it says over there, and I will go ahead and I'll take the feces and put it in your faces on your holidays. And what does that mean? That's like people who don't learn, and they make every day for them like a holiday. They forget learning Torah. Because what's going to happen? Rabbi Levi, Amar Rav Pabi, Amar Yeshua, li'achar shleish yom, after 3 days of a body is in the ground, then kreisa nivkas, then ofelas al panav. Then a person's basically stomach, he dissolves and explodes, right? And then whatever was in the stomach, whatever feces from the stomach, go on his face. The Aimeres law, you told Mashinasat to be, right? You ate your whole life, you was indulging and eating. Take back, what you gave to me. Take back the food in this way of the feces. Fine. Now Mishnah. Mishnah says, "In ma'atzminas mace b'Shabbos, you can't go ahead and close the eyes of a mace on Shabbos. You can't close the eyes because that's considered to be moving limbs. And moving limbs is also to do. V'loy b'chol and you also can't close the eyes while the person is dying. Right, as he's dying, you can't close the eyes because that will kill him. As we'll say, it means this measures. One who goes ahead and closes the eyes, it's like he's murdering, right? It's like he's murdering because it's adding, it's quick and it's hastening his dying. If you close his eyes, they'll hasten the death. So Tana Rabbana, let's see. So a lot of Gemaras, but it moves. So Hamata, one who goes ahead and he closes the eyes as the person's dying. It's like he's spilling his blood, he's killing him. It's like a candle that goes out. Right? It's going out, it's tiny, you just touch with your finger, it can completely go out. So therefore you're causing it to go out. And Tanya Lina Braisa, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Aimer, Harait says she's atzmo, enough. Shalmace, one who goes ahead wants to close the eyes of a mace, let's say on Shabbos. Right? Blow a little wine in his nose, or put some oil between his eyelashes, or basically grab a head of his toes, and the eyes will somehow, I guess, will close from the pressure applied to the body. And tiny little Braisa, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Aimer, Tinaik ben Yaimel Chai Mechalan of the Shabbos. If a baby is alive, even 1 day old, you're allowed to be Mechal Shabbos for a baby, right? In order to go ahead and Pikuach Nefesh, even a baby of 1 day old, David Melech Yisrael Meis in Mechal Shabbos. But if you have a great Jew, even someone as great as David Melech, right? And once he's dead, you can't be Mechal for a dead person, right? There's live is one level. You're allowed to be Mechal Shabbos for any live person, even the worst person or the youngest person. But when it comes to a mace, once they're dead, you're not allowed to be Mechal Shabbos. As a tina big name is Shabbos Amar Torah all of Shabbos Echad Kadeshi Shamer Shabbos Arei. Right? In order to go ahead and be Mechala on Shabbos in order that this person should be able to be able to fulfill many Shabbosim. However, David Melchi Yisrael Mace Emechalav, you can't go ahead and Mechala Shabbos for a dead body. Kevan Shemeis Adam Batam Mitzvahs, because once he dies, then he's no longer Bata for mitzvahs. He's not doesn't do mitzvahs anymore. Behind the Dama Rabbi Yochanan. The Meisim Chavshi says with a dead person, it will be free. So once a person dies, he's free from mitzvahs. So therefore, since a dead person, even as good as David Melech, is dead, therefore they are free from mitzvahs, and therefore we are not Mechal Shabbos for that person. If a baby is 1 old, you don't have to go ahead and protect the baby from a weasel or from rodents, right? Because they know that there's a live person, they're scared of live people. Well, Oig Melech Bashan mace, but if you have a huge person, even the sum of size of Oig Melech Bashan, and if he was dead, because the rodents and weasels they know that the body is a dead person, and they're not scared of dead. It's a corpse. Says right? And then their fear there will be upon you. And as long as a man, humans are alive, then their fear from the humans are upon the animals. However, but once a person dies, then the fear of the animals from the human is no longer there. And it's like a lion doesn't attack two people. So Gemara says, do not feel. What do you mean? We have seen that a lion attack two people. That's like Rabbi Barabba. An animal does not attack a person unless the person appears to the animal like an animal. It says over there, right? In other words, a person will be above the animals as long as he does not appear himself as like an animal to the animals. But once he appears himself like an animal to the animals, then the animals are no longer scared of the humans. And Amar B'Chanina also leishim b'beis yechidi, the chol Hashem b'beis yechidi achazas alilas, and the person should not go ahead and sleep in a house alone, right? He'll be scared of shade, will go crazy, and if he does sleep in a house alone for a long period of time, then this lilis, this demon, the shade, will go ahead and basically cause him problems. But Tanya Rabbi Shimon also ad shiata maitzi umatzu lecha ve'oidcha b'ydecha. You should go ahead and get tzedakah. You should what?
When it says one person, you shouldn't sleep alone. Like any adult, anyone?
Yeah, an adult, right? It's an adult over here. Yeah.
That's scary.
So, yeah, I assume for a longer period of time. So we say now a person should go ahead and give tzedakah, right? You should give tzedakah as long as you have it and as long as they're still alive. The Shlomo says with his wisdom, so it says you should remember, right, from the days that you're created, right, when you're younger, when you're a bacher, right, until the days of evil. It's the days of later on when he's old. Right, until the point he'll say, then I have nothing with him. It won't be found. It won't be found with me. You won't be able to do it. So Eli Yimei Mashiach. That's referring to Yimei Mashiach. Shein behem lo yizchus v'lecha. Because during Yimos Mashiach, the person will not be able to go ahead and give charity. Right? They'll be done. In other words, there won't be a time of poverty. You won't be able to go ahead and give tzedakah then. This, however, argues the Shmuel. Shmuel says, there's no difference between nowadays and during the days of Moshe Mashiach, except for that there won't be Shibud Malchus. Won't have the other kingdoms ruling over the Jews. Right? Shnamar, as the pasuk says, right? They won't be clean of poverty. In other words, there still will be poverty during the Moshe Mashiach. We just won't be under the guy. And Tanya and Bryce, a person should always be mavakish rachamim for having money. Sheim hu lo ba beno, because if he doesn't get poor, then his son will become poor. And if his son isn't a poor, ben beno ba, it will eventually come to his grandson or great grandchildren. Shnamar says, "Keep it's caused as a galal, like a wheel." And Tana debate Rabbi Shmuel, Golgal hu shi chayzer ba'ilam. It's like something that goes. It's a full cycle. It's the wheel of life that the poverty comes and goes through families. And Amar Rav Yesin Aktinan Haitzim and Rabbanan Loimani. We also have a tradition, right? We learn that a limud that Talmid Chacham will not be poor. So what do you mean? We see Talmid Chacham are poor all the time. So even though they're poor, they might not a real Talmid Chacham will not have to go from door to door asking for bread. And Rabbi Chia told his wife, "Ki asi anya akdimile rifta." Right? If a poor person comes to our door, go ahead and treat him very nicely and give him bread right away. In order that they should act like this to your children. So Amarle, what are you cursing me? You're telling me my children should become poor, that they should go door to door asking? So there's a pasuk. It says, we said this is cyclical. It's right. This is a wheel of life. It's right. Once again, It's a cycle that goes in the world in terms of poverty. And Tanya learned it says you go ahead and give mercy, and they'll have mercy upon you. So a person who shows compassion, right? The HaKadosh Baruch Hu will show him compassion. When a person is not compassionate to others, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will not be compassionate to him. And it says of there, referring to the sun is still on it. So that's referring to a person's head. I guess when he dies, right? That is referring to parts of the body. So that's where the sun shines on. So that's referring to the forehead, and the nose, by reach, and it says the moon is the neshama. That's referring to the shama by kochavim, and then it says the stars elu ha l'satos. That's referring to the cheeks. The shever avim achar geshem. It says the clouds after the rain, Zemoreinav Shalad, and that's referring to the person's eyes, Shaholech Achar Bechi, the person's eyes go after he cries. If a person cries too much, the tears will no longer come back, as we'll soon see, and then they'll be called by the clouds coming after. And Amar Shmuel Hai Dimasa, referring to tears, Ad Arbim Shanim Hadra, until 40 years, a person cries, the tears come back. However, Mikan Ve'elech, after 40 years, Lohadra, they don't come back. Amar Rav Nachman Hai Kuchla, when it comes to Kuchla, which is like an eye salve, Ad Arbim Shanim Marviach, up until 40 years, it can go help cure the eye. Mikan Ve'elech Afilu Malia Kavisona Dig or dry. Even if you go ahead and you have a large amount, you use a large salve, nevertheless, it won't go ahead and help. Ukme mokim arvicha marvich. Right? It might go ahead and preserve it, might not get it go worse, but it certainly won't go ahead and heal it after the age of 40. So my kamash will come to teach you to accommodate limekuchla tfei malia. Right? The more that he does it, then it is better for the eyes. In other words, yes, it will increase the amount of salve. And Bervichanina shchiva le barte. One time he was crying. His daughter. Shchiva le barte. His daughter died, and loy havi kol bachila. He didn't cry first. Amar le the BC, his wife said to him, "Targon lost afkis mebeisach, but you lost a chicken. You're not crying. Why aren't you crying?" So he told her, "Tarti tichla v'avira." But should I go ahead and lose two things? Should I lose my daughter, right, and become blind? I don't want to cry because I don't want to become blind because he was older than 40. And Sabarla, he held like this. Kiadam Rabbi Yechon Mishum Rabbi Yosef and Kitzarta. Sheish Demos. There are 6 types of tears. Shalosh Yafos v'Shalosh Ros. 3 are good and 3 are bad. Shaloshan, if it's from smoke, Shalbechi, or crying. Shalbesakise, I guess tears from not being able to, from stomach ailments or the bathroom. Those are Ros. Those are bad. Those are bad for the eyes. However, Shal Sam, V'Shal Schoik, V'Shal Peiros, but if it's from tears from medicine or laughter or from good fruits, then Yafos. Those are good for those types of tears are good for the eyes. And we will stop here. There's a lot of Gemara we had to get through. Shkayach, everybody. Have a wonderful day. We will continue from here. Have